Everyone in the small neighborhood knew her name, not because she was loud or flashy, but because there was something about her that people couldn't ignore. She had a quiet determination that made her stand out even among the busiest streets and crowded classrooms. Her name was Amara, a bright black girl with big dreams and an even bigger heart. From the moment she could remember, she had wanted more than what life had given her. She wanted to study, to learn, to make a difference in a world that often seemed to overlook kids like her. Living in a modest home with her mother and younger brother, she had learned early that nothing in life came easy, but she also learned that courage and hard work could open doors that others thought were locked. Every morning, she would wake up before the sun rose, helping her mother with chores, making sure her brother got ready for school, and still finding time to study her lessons. Sometimes late into the night, her small desk in the corner of their living room was covered with books and notes, each one a step closer to her dream of attending a good school. She would often look at the pages and imagine herself walking through the gates of a place where learning was celebrated, where teachers believed in her, and where she could truly shine. At school, she was known for her sharp mind and her kind heart. Teachers admired her focus and the way she never gave up on a problem. Even when other students had long surrendered, her classmates often came to her for help, not just with schoolwork, but with advice, because she had a way of making everyone feel important. Though she was bright and talented, Amara knew that talent alone could not carry her forward. Her family could not afford the fees of the best schools, and scholarships were few and competitive, but she refused to let that stop her. Every setback became a reason to try harder. Every challenge became a lesson. She believed that her hard work and her courage would one day pay off. In the evenings, when the world outside seemed quiet, she would sit by her window, looking at the stars, imagining all the places she could go and the people she could become. She dreamed not just for herself, but for her mother who had worked so hard to keep the family together, for her little brother who looked up to her, and for all the kids in her neighborhood who deserved a chance to rise. Amara's friends often joked that she had magic in her, because no matter what happened, she seemed to find a way forward. She never complained, she never gave excuses, and somehow she inspired everyone around her without even trying. But deep inside, Amara carried a quiet worry. What if all her effort was not enough? What if the chance she had been waiting for never came? These thoughts sometimes kept her awake at night. Yet she would always wake up with renewed determination, telling herself that she would never give up, that her dreams were worth fighting for. One Saturday, she visited the local library, a small place with creaky shelves and old books. But to her, it was a world of endless possibilities. She would spend hours reading stories about people who overcame impossible odds, and each story fueled her hope. She believed that one day, she too would have a story worth telling. Her mother often reminded her that courage and kindness were more important than wealth or fame, and Amara took these words to heart. She helped her neighbors whenever she could, tutored younger children, and never hesitated to stand up for what was right. Little did she know that this courage, combined with her determination to study and her kind heart, would soon put her in a situation that would change her life forever. A situation where her bravery would be tested in ways she had never imagined, and where the dream she had nurtured so carefully would collide with reality in the most unexpected and extraordinary way. For now, she continued to live her simple life, going to school, helping her family, and dreaming of a future where she could achieve everything she had ever wanted. The quiet determination in her eyes and the fire in her heart were signs that Amara was not just any ordinary girl. She was a girl who was ready for the world, a girl whose courage and dreams were about to meet a moment that would define her forever. And though she could not see it yet, the universe was preparing to give her a chance that very few ever received, a chance that would change her life in ways she had only ever imagined in her dreams. The morning began like any other, with sunlight spilling over the streets and the sounds of children laughing on their way to school. Amara walked briskly, her backpack snug on her shoulders, her mind full of lessons she wanted to master. She had just finished reciting her multiplication tables in her head when a sudden, sharp sound made her freeze. A screech of tires followed by a deafening crash echoed through the street. Her heart jumped into her throat as she saw a car that had lost control, skidding across the road and colliding with a lamppost. Smoke and flames began curling from the hood, and a boy, barely older than her, was trapped inside. Panic flashed through the crowd that had begun to gather, people shouting and pointing, unsure what to do, some calling for help on their phones, some frozen with fear. But Amara's mind moved faster than anyone else's. She didn't think about the danger. She only saw a child in need. Her feet carried her forward before her mind could even question if it was safe. Getting closer, she felt the heat on her face, the acrid smell of smoke filling her nostrils. But the boy's terrified eyes locked on hers, and something inside her knew she had to act. She yanked at the car door, but it was stuck, mangled metal holding it shut like a cage. She searched around quickly and spotted a crowbar left by a nearby construction worker, her hands trembling but determined. She grabbed it and tried to pry the door open. Sparks flew from the metal as the fire grew closer. Every second felt like an eternity, yet she did not give up. She shouted words of encouragement to the boy, telling him to hold on, that he would be okay, that she was there. A fireman from a nearby station finally arrived, rushing to her side. But Amara didn't step back. She held her ground, guiding the boy, showing courage that made even the trained professionals take notice. With a combined effort, the door finally gave way, and she pulled the boy out just as a small explosion from the engine sent flames roaring higher. They tumbled onto the pavement, coughing and gasping, but alive. She held him tight for a moment, feeling his tiny chest rise and fall, making sure he was safe before the firemen whisked him away to get medical attention. The crowd around them erupted into applause, some crying, some cheering, but Amara didn't smile. She felt a strange mix of fear, relief, and disbelief. She had done it. She had saved a life, but the adrenaline kept her trembling. Questions ran through her mind. How close had she come? What if she hadn't been fast enough? She looked at the boy, now in the arms of paramedics, his mother screaming in panic, and realized the reality of what had just happened. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. She had stepped into danger without thinking, driven purely by instinct, by heart, by courage. She hadn't expected anyone to notice her. She didn't care about attention or praise. But as whispers of her bravery spread through the street, reporters arriving with cameras and neighbors pointing, it began to sink in. She had done something extraordinary, something that would change more than just her life. She felt an unfamiliar warmth in her chest, pride mixed with humility, and she knew that whatever happened next, she would remember this moment forever. Later, she would find out that the boy she saved was not just any child, but the son of an influential man, the kind of person who could change the path of her future in ways she had never imagined. At that moment, though, all she could think about was the boy's safety, the smoke still stinging her eyes, the crowd buzzing around, and the strange, powerful feeling of having faced danger and survived. Her heart pounding, she realized that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about moving forward even when fear was all around. And that lesson, learned in the heat of fire and chaos, would stay with her forever. After the boy was safely taken to the ambulance, Amara stood on the side of the street, her clothes singed slightly, her hair smelling of smoke, and her hands still trembling from the heat and effort. People gathered around her, whispering in awe, some patting her on the shoulder, some taking pictures. But she didn't move. She just stared at the smoking car, feeling the weight of what had just happened. It was only then that reality began to sink in. She had risked her life, faced real danger. And yet, the fear she felt in that moment was replaced by a strange, quiet satisfaction. The boy was alive, and she had been the one to save him. As the crowd slowly dispersed, a sleek black car pulled up near the scene, and a man stepped out, tall, sharply dressed, with an air of authority that made heads turn. His face was pale, worry etched into every line. His eyes searched frantically until they landed on the ambulance. And then on Amara, standing there, small but fierce. He moved toward her, his steps quick and determined. "Are you the one who pulled my son out of that car?" he asked, his voice both urgent and filled with disbelief. Amara looked up, unsure how to answer, her throat dry. "Yes, sir," she said softly. Trying to keep her composure, he studied her for a long moment, his expression changing from panic to amazement. "You don't understand," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "That car could have exploded at any second, and you—" He stopped, unable to finish, the weight of her bravery dawning on him. "I can't believe you did that," he finally said, shaking his head in awe. Amara felt a flush of embarrassment. She wasn't used to attention. She wasn't used to people staring at her like she had done something impossible. I wanted to help," she whispered, looking down at her hands, still smudged with dirt and soot. The man nodded slowly, respect and gratitude shining in his eyes. He introduced himself as Mr. Langston, a man Amara had heard of but never imagined meeting in her life. He owned one of the most prestigious schools in the city, and the boy she had saved was his only son. The irony of it all struck her. She had spent so many nights dreaming of a chance to attend a good school, and here she was, standing before the man who could make that dream come true. But right now, none of that mattered. All that mattered was that the boy was safe. Mr. Langston asked questions carefully, trying to understand what had happened, how Amara had found the courage to act, what had gone through her mind. She explained quietly, simply, honestly, never exaggerating, never boasting, and with every word, he seemed more impressed, not just with her bravery, but with her humility. He had expected a hero who would boast or seek recognition. But here was a girl who had acted without thought for herself, only for another. He felt a deep respect for her character. As paramedics carried his son into the hospital, he turned back to Amara. "I want you to know," he said, "that your courage today, it will not be forgotten. I don't know how I can ever properly thank you, but you have my admiration, and I promise, your bravery will be rewarded in ways you cannot imagine." Amara blinked, unsure how to respond. Words felt small compared to the enormity of the moment. She nodded quietly, feeling a mix of pride, humility, and nervous anticipation. She had saved a life, but in the process, she had unknowingly caught the attention of someone who could change her world. As she walked home that evening, her mind replayed every moment of the rescue. The heat, the fear, the boy's eyes, and Mr. Langston's reaction. She realized something powerful. Courage, selflessness, and quick thinking could open doors that no amount of studying or wishing could ever unlock. And though she did not yet know how her life would change, a small spark of hope had been ignited inside her, one that promised that dreams could come true, even in the most unexpected and extraordinary ways. She just had to be ready to step forward when the moment arrived. The next morning, the city was buzzing with news of the daring rescue, whispers and headlines calling her a hero. Amara tried to go about her usual routine, but everywhere she turned, people looked at her differently. The same neighbors who had waved at her every day now stared with admiration. Teachers whispered to each other about the bravery of the girl who had pulled a child from a burning car. Even her friends seemed to view her with a new kind of respect. Yet Amara remained humble. She didn't seek attention. She hadn't done it for fame. She had done it because it was the right thing to do. Meanwhile, Mr. Langston couldn't stop thinking about her. Every detail replayed in his mind, the calm determination in her eyes, the way she had acted without hesitation, the courage it took to face the flames and risk her own life. He knew instantly that this was no ordinary girl, someone with a heart that brave could achieve incredible things. He wanted to meet her properly, to understand who she was beyond that single heroic act. As the day went on, he called the school she attended, arranging a private meeting with the principal. He wanted to know more about her academic abilities, her character, and her dreams. When Amara arrived at the office, she had no idea who she was about to meet. The principal greeted her warmly, but with a serious tone. "Amara, Mr. Langston would like to meet you," she said, ushering her into a spacious office filled with books, awards, and photographs of the school. Amara felt nervous. She had never been in a place so grand. Her heart raced as she stepped forward, and then she saw him, Mr. Langston, standing with a kind yet commanding presence. "Amara," he began, his voice steady but warm, "I want to personally thank you for what you did yesterday. You saved my son's life, and I cannot express how grateful I am." Amara looked down, feeling shy under his gaze. I just did what anyone would do, she whispered. I didn't want him to get hurt. Mr. Langston shook his head, smiling. That's what makes you extraordinary, he said. Most people would have frozen, but you acted. You risked your life for someone you barely knew, and that courage, that heart, it deserves recognition beyond words. He paused, studying her face. I've heard about your academic performance, and your teachers speak highly of you. The dedication and focus are remarkable, but I also see qualities that cannot be taught in a classroom, qualities that are rare and precious. Amara blinked, unsure what to say. The words made her both proud and nervous. She had always worked hard, studied diligently, and dreamed big, but she had never imagined that someone so important would notice her. Mr. Langston continued, I believe that someone with your heart and potential deserves an opportunity to grow, to learn in a place that can challenge you and support your dreams, a place that can shape the future you are capable of achieving. Amara's mind raced. She had no idea what he meant, and yet a small spark of hope flickered inside her. He leaned forward slightly. I would like to offer you a chance to join my school on a scholarship, so that your courage and dedication can be nurtured and rewarded, so that you can continue to grow into the remarkable person I already see in you. Her heart skipped a beat. Disbelief and excitement warred inside her. This was the very school she had dreamed of attending, the opportunity she had thought was impossible, and now it was being offered to her because of who she was and what she had done. She felt a lump in her throat, words failing her, and yet tears of joy threatened to fall. I don't know what to say, she whispered finally. Just know this, Mr. Langston said gently. This is just the beginning of your journey, the beginning of what I believe will be an extraordinary life. You have shown courage, heart, and determination, and those qualities will take you further than any scholarship, any school, or any title ever could. Amara left that meeting feeling a mix of emotions she could hardly name. Pride, humility, gratitude, and excitement all swirled together. She realized that sometimes life has a way of noticing the brave, the selfless, and the kind, and that one act, done without thought for reward, could open doors to a future brighter than she had ever imagined. As she walked home, the streets seemed the same, yet she felt changed, ready to step into a new chapter of her life, a chapter that had begun with courage, but would continue with hope, opportunity, and the promise of dreams coming true. The days after the rescue passed in a blur for Amara. Her life suddenly filled with attention she had never experienced before. Neighbors stopped her on the street to shake her hand. Some even brought small gifts or flowers, but she politely declined, feeling shy and embarrassed by the fuss. At school, the principal called her into the office to talk, and the hallways buzzed with whispers of her heroism. Classmates looked at her with a mixture of awe and curiosity, some asking questions about the accident, others just wanting to be near the girl who had saved a life. Yet Amara remained grounded. She had never sought recognition, and the attention made her feel awkward. Still, she could not deny the quiet pride swelling inside her. She knew she had done something meaningful, something that mattered. One afternoon, the local news crew arrived at her school. Cameras, microphones, and reporters all focused on her. The principal had agreed to let her share her story, but Amara spoke. Softly, modestly, giving credit to the emergency workers and the courage of the boy himself for staying calm in the accident. She avoided exaggerating or dramatizing, and her honesty impressed everyone present. The footage later aired on the evening news, and her story quickly spread across social media. Everyone talking about the brave girl who had pulled a child from a burning car. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from friends, neighbors, and even strangers filled her inbox, some calling her a hero, some offering congratulations, and some sharing their own stories of courage and kindness. Through it all, Amara remained humble, never forgetting that the act itself was more important than the recognition it brought. Meanwhile, Mr. Langston kept in touch, checking on her progress, asking about her studies, and learning more about the girl who had impressed him so deeply. He wanted to make sure she felt supported, not just for her bravery, but for her future potential. One afternoon, he sent a letter inviting her and her mother to his school for an informal tour, a chance to see the classrooms, meet some of the teachers, and experience the environment she might soon be a part of. Walking through the tall halls lined with books and portraits of past students, Amara felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. Everything seemed grander and more serious than she had imagined. Yet she also felt a strange sense of belonging, like she had taken the first steps toward a place she was meant to be. The principal introduced her to teachers who would be guiding her, and each person smiled warmly, impressed not just by her bravery, but by the humility and focus she carried even in the face of such extraordinary attention. She spent hours talking to students who had attended the school for years, and though at first she felt intimidated, she soon realized that they, too, respected her courage. Even before she joined their ranks. Walking back home later, she told her mother about everything, about the tours, the teachers, and the chance to attend the school on a scholarship. Her mother held her hand, tears in her eyes, and said, "You've earned this, Amara, not just for saving that boy, but for being who you are, brave, kind, and determined." Amara felt her chest swell with emotion, realizing that her actions had opened doors she had only dreamed about. And yet, she also understood that this was just the beginning. The scholarship was not the end. It was a responsibility, a challenge, and an opportunity to grow. Over the next few weeks, the excitement of recognition slowly turned into preparation. She began gathering her schoolwork, thinking about what it would be like to step into a completely new world, filled with opportunities, challenges, and expectations. Friends and neighbors continued to celebrate her. But she also began to notice that not everyone reacted positively. Some were jealous, some skeptical, and some couldn't understand why. Someone so ordinary had received such extraordinary attention. Yet Amara refused to let their opinions sway her. She focused on her studies, on helping her family, and on preparing for the next chapter of her life. Through it all, she kept the lessons from the rescue close to her heart: courage, kindness, and selflessness, knowing that no recognition, fame, or scholarship could replace the strength of a brave heart. And in that quiet determination, she found a confidence that would carry her into the next stage of her journey, a journey that promised to challenge her, inspire her, and transform her in ways she had never imagined. The day Amara received the official letter from Mr. Langston's school was a day she would never forget. The envelope felt heavier than it should, as if it carried not just paper, but the weight of her dreams. Her hands shook slightly as she tore it open, and when she read the words confirming her full scholarship, she could hardly believe it. Joy, disbelief, and gratitude all flooded through her at once. She ran to show her mother, who gasped and hugged her so tightly that Amara felt like she might float. "You did it, Amara. You really did it," her mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. Amara laughed through her own tears, the reality of what was happening beginning to sink in. This was the chance she had worked for, the opportunity that had always seemed just out of reach, now offered because of her courage and her heart. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation, paperwork, meetings, and new clothes. Amara felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She was about to step into a world very different from the one she had known, a world of elite classrooms, demanding teachers, and students who had grown up with opportunities she had only dreamed about. The morning she walked through the gates of the prestigious school, she felt her heart pounding. The buildings were grand, the gardens immaculate, and students moved with a confidence she admired. Yet the warmth of her courage gave her strength. She remembered the day she had saved that boy, the fear, the adrenaline, the determination, and it reminded her that she could face challenges, no matter how big. In her first class, she met her teachers, each one kind but rigorous. They welcomed her warmly, impressed by her scholarship and curious about the story that had brought her there. She introduced herself quietly, explaining her background and her dreams, and they listened with genuine interest. After class, a group of students approached her, some shy, some confident, all curious. She smiled politely, answering questions and listening to their stories. She felt a sense of belonging, even among students who had grown up in a very different world. Over the next few weeks, Amara worked tirelessly to keep up with the new curriculum. Every assignment, every test was a challenge. but she approached each one with the same determination that had driven her to act bravely during the accident. Her teachers noticed her dedication, her willingness to ask questions, and her humility despite her recognition. Slowly, she earned respect not just for her scholarship, but for her character and hard work. One afternoon, Mr. Langston visited the school to check on her progress. Walking through the hallways, he observed her interacting with teachers and classmates. His pride evident. He had not just saved a life that day. He had discovered a young girl with potential that deserved to be nurtured. He stopped to speak with her. "Amara, I see you adjusting well," he said with a smile. "I want you to know that this scholarship is not just a reward for bravery. It is a door to your future, a chance to grow, to learn, and to inspire others as you already have." Amara nodded, humbled and inspired. She realized that this opportunity was more than just education. It was a chance to shape the life she had always dreamed of. As weeks turned into months, she began to feel at home. She formed friendships with students who shared her values. She tackled challenges with determination, and she never forgot the lesson that had brought her here. That courage and kindness could open doors no one could foresee. At night, she would reflect on her journey, from the streets of her neighborhood to the halls of this prestigious school, remembering the boy in the burning car, the fear she had faced, and the selfless act that had changed her life. She realized that the scholarship was not just a reward for a single act, but an investment in the person she was becoming. And in that realization, she found purpose, determination, and hope for a future where she could achieve more than she had ever dreamed. Life at the new school was everything Amara had imagined and more. Yet it was also a challenge. The classrooms were larger, the lessons faster, and the expectations higher than anything she had faced before. At first, she felt overwhelmed, sitting at her desk surrounded by students who seemed to know everything, who had tutors, guidance, and resources she had never had. But she remembered the courage that had carried her through the fire, and she drew on it now, telling herself that she belonged here just as much as anyone. She started by paying attention in every class, taking meticulous notes, asking questions when she didn't understand, and completing every assignment with care and determination. Her teachers noticed her dedication, impressed not only by her academic skills, but by her humility, kindness, and the quiet strength she carried. Word of the heroic girl who had saved a boy's life spread quickly among students. And while some were inspired, others were curious, or even skeptical. Yet Amara did not seek attention. She let her work and action speak for themselves. She helped classmates who struggled, tutored students in her favorite subjects, and even shared stories of courage and kindness from her neighborhood. Slowly, respect for her grew. Friendships formed naturally with students who valued her character. She discovered that courage was not only about grand heroic acts, but also about facing new challenges, adapting to change, and helping others along the way. One day, the boy she had saved visited the school with his father, and Amara saw him again for the first time since the accident. He smiled shyly, gratitude and admiration in his eyes. "Thank you again," he said softly. And she simply nodded, feeling a quiet warmth. She had saved his life, but now she realized that her actions had also created bonds that went beyond words. As weeks turned into months, Amara began to shine academically, her hard work paying off, and she even started taking part in school activities, clubs, and competitions, each success building her confidence. She was no longer just the girl who had pulled a boy from a burning car. She was a student, a leader, a friend, and an inspiration. She discovered that courage, kindness, and determination were contagious. As younger students looked up to her, she encouraged them to be brave, to study hard, and to help others without expecting anything in return. She remembered her own doubts, her own fears, and realized how far she had come. Mr. Langston continued to watch her progress with pride. He saw not just a brave girl, but a young woman growing into someone capable of great impact. One afternoon, he invited her to a small gathering with other scholarship students, where he spoke about the importance of courage, integrity, and responsibility. Amara listened carefully, and when it was her turn to speak, she shared her story humbly, focusing not on herself, but on the lessons she had learned. about bravery, kindness, and perseverance. The room was silent for a moment, and then erupted into applause. Students inspired by her words, teachers moved by her honesty, and Mr. Langston smiling with pride. She realized that the scholarship had given her more than education. It had given her a platform to inspire, a chance to be a leader, and a reminder that one courageous act could ripple out to change countless lives. At night, walking back to her dorm, she reflected on how different life had become, from the streets of her old neighborhood to the grandeur of the school. She thought about the boy, his father, her mother, and the friends who had believed in her all along. She felt grateful, determined, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She understood now that true success was not measured by recognition or rewards, but by the courage to act, the kindness to help others, and the persistence to keep moving forward even when the path seemed impossible. And with that realization, Amara knew that she was prepared not just to survive in her new world, but to thrive, to inspire, and to make the most of the extraordinary opportunity that life had unexpectedly offered her. Months passed, and Amara's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. The scholarship had not only given her access to an excellent education, but it had also opened doors to opportunities, friendships, and experiences she had only dreamed about. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more determined to make a difference in the world. Every time she walked through the school gates, she remembered the courage that had brought her here, and it reminded her that one brave act could change everything. Her academic achievements continued to shine. She excelled in her classes, earning praise from her teachers not only for her intellect, but also for her diligence and humility. She became a role model for other students, especially those who struggled or doubted themselves. Her story inspired them to believe in their own abilities and to act courageously when faced with challenges outside the classroom. She participated in community programs organized by the school, helping younger children, tutoring peers, and volunteering in local initiatives. She realized that true leadership was not about recognition or rewards, but about making a positive impact on others. One afternoon, she was invited to a school assembly where Mr. Langston addressed the students. He spoke about courage, compassion, and the importance of taking action even when it is difficult. And then he looked at Amara, smiling. "This young woman," he said, "is proof that bravery and kindness can change lives. She has not only saved a life, but has also inspired us all to be better, to act with courage, and to help others without hesitation." The audience erupted into applause, and Amara felt a quiet pride, not because of the praise, but because she knew her actions had created hope and inspiration. One day, she received a letter from the boy's family, thanking her again, and inviting her to meet them for a small celebration. When she arrived, she saw the boy running toward her with a big smile. His father hugged her warmly, and his mother thanked her tearfully. In that moment, she realized that her bravery had created connections that would last a lifetime. She had not only saved a life, but had also touched hearts in ways she had never imagined. Walking back to school that evening, she reflected on how far she had come, from the small streets of her neighborhood to the halls of one of the most prestigious schools. Every struggle, every long night of studying, every moment of doubt had led to this transformation. She understood that life sometimes tests people in ways that seem overwhelming, but those tests can reveal strength, courage, and character that would otherwise remain hidden. As she lay in her dorm that night, she thought about her future, the dreams she still held, and the opportunities that awaited her. She knew that the scholarship was not the end of her journey, but the beginning of something extraordinary, a chance to continue growing, learning, and inspiring others. And she promised herself that she would never forget the lessons of courage, selflessness, and determination that had brought her here in the months and years that followed. Amara continued to excel, eventually becoming a leader in her school, mentoring other students, and using her story to inspire communities far beyond her own. She realized that heroism is not just about extraordinary acts in extraordinary moments, but about consistently choosing to do what is right, even when it is difficult. And that one act of courage can change the trajectory of an entire life. Her journey came full circle when she returned to her old neighborhood to speak to young children, telling them that dreams can come true, that bravery matters, and that kindness is always remembered. As she looked into their eyes, she remembered herself, the girl who had run toward danger without fear, and she smiled, knowing that her story had become a bridge between courage, opportunity, and hope, and that her life, once ordinary, had transformed into an extraordinary testament to the power of heart, determination, and selfless action.